It was one of those gray Tuesday afternoons when everything feels heavy. The kind of day where even the sky looks tired. Lisa had been walking around the downtown area for nearly 4 hours, going from one office building to another, dropping off resumes and filling out applications. Her feet hurt, her back ached, and her 3-month-old baby girl Sophie was getting fussy in the carrier strapped to her chest. Lisa was exhausted, not just the regular kind of tired, but that bone-deep exhaustion that comes from juggling too many worries at once. The rent was due in 5 days. Her savings account had exactly $47 left, and she desperately needed to find a job, any job, that would understand she had a baby to take care of. She spotted a small cafe on the corner called Bean and Blossom. It looked cozy from the outside, with warm lights glowing through the windows and a chalkboard sign advertising fresh pastries. Lisa checked her wallet. She had enough for a small coffee, maybe. That would give her a place to sit for a while, rest her feet, and feed Sophie before heading home on the bus. The cafe was moderately busy when she walked in. A few people sat with their laptops typing away. A couple in the corner shared a piece of cake. An elderly man read a newspaper by the window. Normal everyday life, the kind Lisa used to be part of before everything got so complicated. She ordered the cheapest thing on the menu, a small black coffee for $2.50. The cashier, a teenager with bright pink streaks in her hair, smiled politely and took her money. Lisa found a table in the back corner, away from most people. She just wanted to be invisible for a little while. Sophie started crying the moment Lisa sat down. It was that distinctive hungry cry that every mother learns to recognize instantly. Lisa knew what her baby needed. She looked around the cafe, feeling a familiar knot of anxiety form in her stomach. She had been kicked out of places before for trying to feed her baby. Not everywhere, but enough times to make her nervous every single time. Still, she was too tired to care today. Sophie needed to eat, and that was all that mattered. Lisa carefully adjusted her nursing cover, making sure everything was completely concealed. She had gotten good at being discreet over the past 3 months. Most people wouldn't even notice what she was doing. For about 10 minutes, everything was fine. Sophie calmed down. Lisa sipped her coffee, and she finally felt her shoulders relax just a tiny bit. She stared out the window, watching people hurry past on the sidewalk, everyone rushing to somewhere important. She wondered if she would ever feel that sense of purpose again. That feeling of having somewhere to be and something meaningful to do. That peace lasted exactly 12 minutes. A young server approached her table. He couldn't have been more than 19 or 20, with a nervous expression on his face. He kept glancing back toward the counter as if someone was watching him. "Excuse me, ma'am," he said quietly, his voice barely above a whisper. "I'm really sorry, but I need to ask you to stop doing that." Lisa looked up at him, confused at first. "Stop doing what?" The server's face turned red. He looked genuinely uncomfortable. The feeding thing. Some customers complained, and my manager said I have to ask you to either go to the restroom or leave. Lisa felt her heart drop. Here we go again, she thought. The familiar mixture of embarrassment, anger, and helplessness washed over her. She had been through this before, but it never got easier. "I'm feeding my baby," Lisa said, keeping her voice calm even though her hands were shaking. "I'm completely covered. I have a legal right to do this anywhere I'm allowed to be." The server looked even more uncomfortable. I know. I'm not trying to be rude or anything. It's just, my manager said some customers are uncomfortable and she wants me to ask you to leave." "Who complained?" Lisa asked, looking around the cafe. Most people weren't even paying attention to her. The couple was still sharing their cake. The laptop people were still typing. The old man was still reading. Nobody seemed bothered at all. "I can't really say," the server mumbled. "But my manager is pretty serious about it. I could lose my job if I don't handle this." Lisa felt trapped. She understood the server was just following orders. But that didn't make it right. Sophie was still feeding, and Lisa couldn't just stop in the middle. "Babies don't work that way. You can't pause them like a video. Can I at least finish?" Lisa asked. "She's almost done. Just a few more minutes." Before the server could answer, an older woman in a black blazer walked over. She had the confident stride of someone used to being in charge. Her name tag read manager but didn't include a name. "Ma'am, I'm going to have to ask you to leave immediately," the manager said firmly, not even bothering to lower her voice. Several customers turned to look now. "We have other patrons who are uncomfortable with what you're doing." This is a family establishment and we need to maintain certain standards. Lisa felt her face burn with humiliation. This is family, she said, gesturing to Sophie. I'm feeding my child. That's literally what mothers do. I'm not doing anything wrong. You're making our customers uncomfortable, the manager repeated, crossing her arms. If you don't leave voluntarily, I'll have to call security. Lisa couldn't believe what she was hearing. Security for feeding her baby? She looked around the cafe again, and this time she noticed people were definitely staring. Some looked sympathetic, others curious, a few seemed disapproving, but most just looked away quickly, not wanting to get involved. She felt so alone in that moment. So small and powerless. Fine, Lisa said, her voice cracking slightly. I'll leave. She carefully gathered her things while trying to keep Sophie covered and comfortable. Her hands were shaking so badly she almost dropped her phone. Tears burned at the corners of her eyes, but she refused to let them fall. Not here, not in front of these people. The walk to the door felt like a mile. Every eye in the cafe seemed to follow her. The bell above the door chimed cheerfully as she left, a sound that felt cruelly out of place. The cold air hit her face like a slap. Lisa stood on the sidewalk for a moment, trying to compose herself. Sophie had stopped feeding and was looking up at her with those big, innocent eyes, completely unaware of what had just happened. Lisa kissed her baby's forehead and whispered, "It's okay, sweetheart. We're okay." But they weren't okay. Lisa had to walk 4 blocks to find a bench where she could sit down and let Sophie finish eating. By the time they got home, it was almost dark. Lisa fed Sophie, put her down for a nap, and then finally let herself cry. She had no idea that in that cafe, sitting 2 tables away, a college student had recorded the entire encounter on her phone. She had no idea that video was already being uploaded to social media, and she definitely had no idea that her worst day was about to change her life in ways she never could have imagined. All Lisa knew was that she felt defeated, humiliated, and more alone than ever. She fell asleep that night wondering how much longer she could keep fighting. Rachel couldn't stop thinking about what she had witnessed at the cafe. She was a journalism student at the local university, and she had seen plenty of unfair situations before, but something about watching that young mother get kicked out for simply feeding her baby had really gotten under her skin. She sat in her dorm room that evening, staring at the video on her phone. She had recorded it almost instinctively when she saw the manager approaching the mother's table. Rachel had a habit of documenting things. Her professors always said that good journalists need to capture the truth when they see it. The video was about 2 minutes long. It showed everything clearly. The nervous server talking to the mother, the manager walking over with that authoritative stance, the mother's embarrassed face as she tried to explain herself. And most importantly, it showed how discreet the mother had been, how she wasn't bothering anyone, how she was just trying to take care of her child. Rachel had watched it 5 times already. Each time she got more upset. This wasn't right. This was 2025, not 1925. Mothers had rights. Babies had the right to eat. Why was this still happening? She opened her social media accounts and started typing. Her fingers moved quickly across the keyboard as she wrote a caption for the video. Watched a mother get kicked out of Bean and Blossom Cafe today for feeding her baby. She was completely covered. She wasn't bothering anyone. She was just being a mom. This needs to stop. Rachel hesitated for just a moment before hitting the post button. She wasn't trying to ruin anyone's life or destroy a business. She just wanted people to see what she had seen. Maybe if enough people knew about it, things would change. She posted the video on 4 different platforms and then closed her laptop. She had homework to do, and honestly, she didn't expect much to happen. Maybe a few of her friends would see it and leave supportive comments. Maybe it would get 100 views or so. Rachel had no idea what was about to happen. By the next morning, her phone was going crazy. Notifications were pouring in so fast that her phone kept freezing. Text messages from friends, emails from strangers, hundreds of comments on her posts. Her video had been shared thousands of times overnight. Rachel sat up in bed and checked the view count. Her jaw dropped. The video had over 2 million views across all platforms. 2 million in less than 12 hours. The comments section was exploding. Mothers from all over the country were sharing their own stories. Some had been kicked out of restaurants. Others had been asked to cover up in parks. Many had been told to go feed their babies in bathroom stalls, as if babies should eat in the same place people use the toilet. But it wasn't just mothers commenting. Regular people were outraged too. Men were expressing their support. Young people who didn't even have kids were calling it discrimination. Older people were saying they'd raised their children decades ago and never faced this kind of treatment. The hashtag feeding is fundamental started trending within hours. People began posting photos of themselves holding signs outside Bean and Blossom locations. Some were organizing peaceful protests. Others were calling for a complete boycott of the cafe chain. News outlets picked up the story by midday. Local TV stations sent reporters to stand outside the original cafe where the incident happened. National news websites wrote articles about breastfeeding rights and public discrimination. Suddenly, this one small incident was turning into a massive conversation about how society treats mothers. Meanwhile, Lisa had no idea any of this was happening. She woke up that Wednesday morning in her tiny apartment, feeling just as defeated as she had the night before. Sophie needed a diaper change and a feeding. The bills on the kitchen table still needed to be paid. Life just continued, difficult and exhausting as always. Lisa's phone had been buzzing occasionally, but she assumed it was just spam calls or maybe her sister checking in. She was too busy trying to make Sophie's bottle and figure out which job application to follow up on first. She didn't have time for social media or news. She barely had time to shower. Her best friend Kelly called around noon. "Lisa, have you seen the internet today?" Kelly asked, her voice urgent. "No, why? I've been dealing with Sophie all morning. She's been extra fussy. You need to check your phone right now. There's a video." From yesterday, from the cafe, Lisa's stomach dropped. "What video? What are you talking about?" "Someone recorded what happened to you. It's everywhere, Lisa. Millions of people have seen it. Everyone's talking about what that cafe did to you." Lisa felt dizzy. She sat down on her worn-out couch and opened her social media apps with shaking hands. And there it was, her face, her humiliation. Her worst moment captured on video for the entire world to see. At first, Lisa felt sick. This was her private pain, her embarrassing experience now exposed for everyone to judge. She wanted to disappear. She wanted to delete the internet. She wanted to crawl into bed and never come out. But as she read through the comments, something shifted. People weren't making fun of her. They were defending her. Thousands of strangers were standing up for her, saying she did nothing wrong, calling out the cafe for their cruel treatment. "You're a good mother," one comment said. "Don't let anyone make you feel ashamed for taking care of your baby," said another. "This cafe should be ashamed, not you," read a third. Lisa started crying, but this time they weren't tears of defeat. They were tears of relief. For the first time since yesterday, she didn't feel so alone. While Lisa was processing this unexpected support, Bean and Blossom's corporate headquarters was in complete chaos. The company's main phone line had been ringing nonstop since early morning. Their social media pages were being flooded with angry messages faster than their team could read them. People were leaving one-star reviews on every platform possible. The communications director was having an emergency meeting with the executive team. They had never faced a crisis like this before. The company's reputation was crumbling by the hour, and they needed to figure out what to do. Some executives wanted to release a standard corporate apology, something vague and non-committal that wouldn't admit any real fault. Others suggested going silent and waiting for the story to blow over. A few thought they should defend their manager's decision and claim they were just following company policy. But in his corner office on the top floor, the CEO of Bean and Blossom's parent company sat quietly, watching the video for the third time. His name was Daniel, and he had built his company from the ground up over the past 15 years. He had always prided himself on creating welcoming, family-friendly spaces. Watching this video made him feel physically ill. This wasn't what his company was supposed to be. This wasn't what he stood for. His own mother had raised him and his two siblings alone after his father left. He remembered how hard she worked, how tired she always was, how people sometimes treated her like she was less than because she was a struggling single parent. This young mother in the video reminded him of his mom. Tired, trying her best, just needing a moment of peace, and his employees had treated her like she was doing something wrong. Daniel made a decision in that moment. He wasn't going to release some meaningless apology written by lawyers. He wasn't going to let his PR team handle this with carefully crafted statements designed to protect the company. He was going to do something different. Something real. He picked up his phone and called his assistant. "I need you to find that mother from the video. Get me her contact information. I want to speak with her personally." His assistant hesitated. "Sir, the legal team advises against direct contact. They think it could open us up to liability." "I don't care what the legal team thinks," Daniel said firmly. "Find her. Today. I'm going to make this right." By late afternoon, Daniel's team had located Lisa through the credit card transaction from the cafe. They found her phone number and her address. Daniel insisted on calling her himself. No intermediaries, no corporate representatives. Just him reaching out to her directly. Lisa was feeding Sophie when her phone rang with an unknown number. She almost didn't answer, but something made her pick up. "Hello? Hello, is this Lisa? This is Daniel Chen, CEO of Horizon Hospitality Group. We own Bean and Blossom. I'm calling about what happened to you yesterday, and I need to apologize." Lisa was stunned into silence. The CEO was calling her? Personally? "I saw the video," Daniel continued, his voice sincere and without any corporate polish. "What happened to you was wrong. Completely wrong, and I want to make it right. Would you be willing to meet with me? I'd like to talk to you in person if you're comfortable with that." Lisa didn't know what to say. Part of her was suspicious. Was this just damage control? Was he trying to keep her from suing? But another part of her, the part that was tired of fighting alone, heard something genuine in his voice. I guess so," Lisa said slowly. "When?" "Tomorrow, if that works for you. You pick the place. Somewhere you feel comfortable. And please, bring your baby. I'd like to meet her too." After they hung up, Lisa sat in stunned silence. In less than 24 hours, her life had gone from humiliating defeat to viral video to a phone call from a CEO. She had no idea what would happen next, but for the first time in a long time, she felt like maybe, just maybe, something good might come from all this pain. Lisa barely slept that night. She kept replaying the phone conversation with Daniel in her mind, trying to figure out his angle. Rich CEOs didn't just call random people to apologize. There had to be something more to it. Maybe he wanted her to sign some kind of agreement not to sue. Maybe he was going to offer her a small amount of money to make the whole thing go away quietly. She had chosen to meet him at Riverside Park, a public place where she'd feel safe. It was a 15-minute bus ride from her apartment, and Sophie liked watching the ducks on the pond. At least if this meeting turned out to be a disaster, she could take Sophie to see the ducks afterward and salvage something good from the day. Thursday morning arrived with clear skies and a gentle breeze. Lisa dressed Sophie in her nicest outfit, a little yellow dress that her sister had given them. She looked at her own reflection in the bathroom mirror and sighed. Her best clothes were worn and outdated, but they were clean. That would have to be good enough. The bus was late, which made Lisa anxious. She hated being late for anything. Even meetings she wasn't sure she wanted to attend. By the time she arrived at the park, she was 10 minutes past their agreed meeting time. She rushed toward the bench near the pond, pushing Sophie's stroller a bit too fast, apologizing under her breath. But when she got there, she saw a man sitting casually on the bench, wearing jeans and a simple button-down shirt. No suit, no entourage of assistants or lawyers, just a regular-looking guy in his mid-40s holding 2 coffee cups from a different cafe chain. "Lisa?" he asked, standing up when he saw her approaching. "I'm Daniel. Thank you so much for coming." Lisa was immediately thrown off. She had expected someone more intimidating, someone in expensive clothes with a cold businessman attitude. But Daniel had warm eyes and a genuine smile. He looked nervous, actually, like he wasn't quite sure how to start this conversation. "I brought coffee," Daniel said, offering her one of the cups. "I didn't know how you take it, so I got cream and sugar on the side. And please sit down. You must be tired from the trip over." Lisa sat down slowly, still wary. She positioned Sophie's stroller where she could see her baby's face. Sophie was awake, looking around at the trees and the people walking by. "She's beautiful," Daniel said, peeking at Sophie. "How old?" 3 months, Lisa answered, her voice cautious. 3 months. That's such a hard age. I remember when my kids were that small. Nobody warns you how exhausting it is. Daniel paused. "I have 2 daughters, actually. They're teenagers now. which brings its own challenges. Lisa didn't know what to say, so she just nodded and sipped her coffee. It was good coffee, she had to admit. Better than anything she could afford lately. Daniel took a deep breath. Lisa, I want to start by saying I'm truly sorry for what happened to you. Not corporate sorry, not lawyer sorry. I mean, I'm personally sorry. As one human being to another. What my employee did was wrong. The way you were treated was unacceptable. Employees? Lisa corrected quietly. It was the server and the manager. You're right. Multiple people failed you that day, and that failure reflects on me because I built this company. I hired these people. I created the culture, or at least I thought I did. Daniel looked out at the pond, his jaw tight. I honestly thought we were better than that. They sat in silence for a moment. A duck waddled past and Sophie made a little cooing sound. Lisa reached down and adjusted the blanket around her baby. Can I tell you something? Daniel asked. My mother raised me and my 2 siblings alone. My father left when I was 7. Mom worked 2 jobs most of my childhood. I remember going with her to work sometimes because she couldn't afford childcare. I'd sit in break rooms doing homework while she finished her shift. Lisa looked at him surprised. This wasn't the conversation she had expected. People treated her badly sometimes, Daniel continued, like she was less than other people because she was struggling. Like she should be ashamed for being a single mother trying to survive. I hated that. I hated watching people look down on her when she was the hardest working person I knew. His voice got quieter. When I started my company 15 years ago, I promised myself I'd create places where everyone felt welcome. Especially families. Especially people who were having a hard time. I wanted my cafes to be the kind of place where my mom would have felt comfortable bringing us kids. Then what happened? Lisa asked, her voice harder than she intended. Why did your manager kick me out for feeding my baby? Daniel shook his head. I've been asking myself that same question. I think somewhere along the way, as the company got bigger, I lost touch with what was actually happening in my stores. I was so focused on expansion and profits and quarterly reports that I stopped paying attention to whether we were actually living up to our values. He turned to face Lisa directly. That manager? She's been let go. Not because of the bad publicity, but because she treated you cruelly when you were vulnerable. That's not who we want representing our company. The server who approached you first is still employed because honestly, he was just following orders, but he's going to go through extensive retraining, along with every other employee we have. Lisa felt something shift inside her. She had expected excuses or deflection, but Daniel seemed genuinely upset about what had happened. What do you want from me? Lisa asked bluntly. You didn't call me here just to apologize. CEOs don't do that. So what is this really about? Daniel smiled slightly. You're direct. I appreciate that. He set his coffee cup down on the bench. You're right. I do want something, but it might not be what you're expecting. Lisa tensed, preparing herself for whatever demand or request was coming. I want to offer you a job, Daniel said simply. Lisa blinked. What? A job? At my company, in our corporate office. Daniel leaned forward, his elbows on his knees. Look, I've spent the last 2 days thinking about how to fix this. Not just fix the PR problem, but actually fix the underlying issue. And I realized I can't do it alone. I need someone who understands what it's like to be in your position. Someone who knows what parents actually need. I don't have any corporate experience, Lisa said, bewildered. I was working retail before Sophie was born. I don't know anything about running a big company. I don't need someone with corporate experience. I need someone with real-world experience. Someone who can tell me honestly when we're screwing up. Someone who can help us create policies and spaces that actually work for families. Daniel pulled out a folder from the bag beside the bench. I want to hire you as our family services coordinator. You'd work with every cafe location to make sure parents feel welcome. You'd train staff on how to treat customers with respect and dignity. You'd help us design spaces that work for families with young children. Lisa took the folder with shaking hands. Inside was a job description and a salary number that made her gasp out loud. It was more than 3 times what she had been making at her retail job. There were benefits listed too. Health insurance, paid parental leave, and something called child care assistance. This is real? Lisa whispered, completely real. And before you think this is charity or guilt money, let me be clear. This is a real job with real responsibilities. I expect you to work hard. I expect you to challenge me and my team when we're wrong. I expect you to make our company better. Daniel's expression was serious. But yes, the timing is because of what happened to you. Sometimes the worst moments can become catalysts for real change. Lisa stared at the papers, her mind racing. This didn't feel real. 3 days ago, she was scraping together change for a coffee. Yesterday, she was a viral video. Today, she was being offered a career that could change her entire life. There's more, Daniel said. He pulled out another document. I want to start a scholarship fund for single parents who are trying to get back into the workforce. Help with childcare costs, job training, professional clothes, whatever they need. I want to name it after you. The Lisa Henderson Fund. Tears started streaming down Lisa's face before she could stop them. Sophie began fussing, sensing her mother's emotional state. Lisa picked up her baby and held her close, not caring that she was crying in front of the CEO she barely knew. Why are you doing this? Lisa asked through her tears. Really, why? Daniel was quiet for a moment. Because my mom died 5 years ago, and I never got to repay her for all the sacrifices she made. Because I saw you in that video and I saw her. Because I have the power to make a difference, and not using that power would make me complicit in the same system that hurt you. He paused, and because it's the right thing to do. It should be that simple. Lisa looked down at Sophie, who was now calm again, looking up at her mother with trusting eyes. She thought about the stack of unpaid bills on her kitchen table. She thought about the landlord who was threatening eviction. She thought about all the nights she'd cried herself to sleep wondering how she was going to survive. And she thought about the possibility of not just surviving, but actually thriving, of being able to provide for Sophie, of having a purpose beyond just getting through each day, of using her painful experience to help other people who were struggling the same way she had been. When would I start? Lisa asked quietly. Daniel smiled, and it reached all the way to his eyes. Whenever you're ready. We'll work around your schedule with Sophie. The job is flexible because that's the whole point. We can't ask parents to feel welcome in our spaces if we don't give our own employees the flexibility they need. Lisa wiped her eyes with the back of her hand. Okay, yes, I'll do it. They shook hands there on the park bench, sealing an agreement that would change both of their lives. Sophie cooed happily, as if she understood that something important had just happened. As they talked through the details, making plans for Lisa's first day and discussing her ideas for making the cafes more family-friendly, neither of them noticed the small crowd that had gathered nearby. Several people had recognized Lisa from the viral video. Some were recording this moment on their phones. Within hours, this meeting would become another viral story, but this time with a very different message. Sometimes people said in the comments, the world actually gets it right. Sometimes accountability leads to real change. Sometimes the people with power use it for good. And sometimes a mother who just wanted to feed her baby in peace becomes the catalyst for something much bigger than she ever imagined. 2 weeks later, Lisa stood in front of the mirror in her new apartment, adjusting the collar of her blouse. It was her first day at Horizon Hospitality Group, and her stomach was doing flips. The company had helped her move into a better place, closer to the office with an actual nursery for Sophie. She still couldn't quite believe this was her life now. Her sister Kelly had agreed to watch Sophie for the first few days until Lisa could figure out the childcare situation. As she kissed her baby goodbye that morning, Lisa felt the familiar pang of mom guilt. But Kelly squeezed her hand and said, "You're doing something amazing. Sophie is going to be so proud of you someday." The corporate office was nothing like Lisa had imagined. She'd pictured sterile cubicles and serious people in suits. Instead, she walked into a bright open space with plants everywhere and people chatting casually over coffee. Several employees smiled at her as she checked in at the reception desk. Daniel met her in the lobby personally. "Ready for your first day?" he asked with an encouraging smile. "Honestly, I'm terrified," Lisa admitted. "Good, that means you care. Come on, I'll show you to your office." Office. Lisa had an actual office with her name on the door. Inside was a desk, a comfortable chair, a computer, and a small cozy corner with a cushion seat, a side table, and a privacy screen. Daniel noticed her staring at it. "That's a nursing station," he explained. "We're installing them in every office and break room in this building. You shouldn't have to choose between doing your job and taking care of Sophie. When she's here with you, you'll have a private, comfortable place." Lisa felt tears threatening again. She'd cried more in the past 2 weeks than in the previous 2 years. But these were different tears. These were the kind that came from feeling seen and valued. Her first assignment was bigger than she'd expected. Daniel wanted her to visit every single Bean and Blossom location in the state, over 30 cafes, and assess what needed to change. He gave her a company credit card, a rental car, and complete authority to make recommendations. "Don't hold back," Daniel told her during their first official meeting. "I want the truth even if it's uncomfortable. Especially if it's uncomfortable." Lisa started her visits the following Monday. The first cafe she walked into was in a suburban shopping center. She came in as a regular customer with Sophie in her carrier and just observed. The staff was polite but rushed. The seating was mostly small tables with hard chairs. There was no changing table in the bathroom. The music was too loud for a baby to sleep comfortably. And when she discreetly began nursing Sophie in the corner, she noticed a few customers glance over with uncomfortable expressions, though no one said anything. She filled an entire notebook with observations. Then she did the same thing at 5 more locations. Each place had different issues, but patterns emerged. Most cafes weren't hostile to families, they were just thoughtless. Nobody had considered what a parent with a baby actually needed. At the weekly team meeting, Lisa presented her findings. She was nervous speaking in front of 15 executives, but she pushed through. "Here's what I learned," she said, pulling up her photos on the conference room screen. "Our cafes aren't designed for families. They're designed for people who can sit for 20 minutes, drink their coffee, and leave. But parents need different things." She clicked to her next slide showing a cramped bathroom. "Every location needs a proper changing station. Not those flimsy wall-mounted ones that look like they'll collapse, real sturdy changing tables. And they need to be in both restrooms, not just the women's room, because dads change diapers too." Several people nodded and took notes. "We need comfortable seating options, chairs with armrests for nursing mothers, booth seating where families can spread out a bit, and we need to lower the music volume." I timed it at 4 locations. The music was so loud that babies couldn't sleep, which means parents couldn't relax. Lisa clicked through more slides, showing poorly lit corners, cold temperatures, and stroller-unfriendly layouts. "And we need to train every single employee on how to interact with parents. Not just tell them not to kick out nursing mothers. Actually teach them how to be helpful and welcoming." When she finished, the room was silent. Lisa's heart sank. She'd been too critical. She'd overstepped. These people probably thought she was some nobody who didn't understand business. Then Daniel started clapping. Within seconds, the entire room joined in. "This is exactly what we needed," Daniel said, standing up. "Honest feedback from someone who actually lives this reality. Everything Lisa just presented, I want implemented. All of it, in every location. I don't care what it costs." The chief financial officer cleared his throat. "Daniel, renovating 30-plus locations will be expensive. We're talking significant budget implications." "I know what it'll cost," Daniel replied firmly. "But do you know what it'll cost us if we don't do it? Our reputation, our customers, and our integrity. We're doing this. Lisa, you're in charge of the implementation. Work with our facilities team. I want the first 5 locations renovated within a month." Over the next several weeks, Lisa threw herself into the work. She collaborated with architects to design comfortable nursing lounges. She worked with the training team to develop a comprehensive program about serving families with dignity and respect. She even helped rewrite the company's official policy on breastfeeding, making it crystal clear that all parents were welcome to feed their babies anywhere in any cafe, anytime. But the real test came when Daniel announced they would hold a press conference. The company was ready to show the world what they'd been working on, and Lisa would be standing right beside him. The morning of the press conference, Lisa's hands shook as she got dressed. Sophie was coming with her, of course. Daniel had insisted. "This started because of what happened to you and your daughter," he'd said. "You should both be there for this moment." The conference was held at the original Bean and Blossom location where Lisa had been kicked out. The same cafe, the same corner where she'd sat. But everything else had changed. The space had been completely renovated. There was now a dedicated family area with comfortable seating, soft lighting, and a beautiful nursing lounge with a locking door. The bathroom had a proper changing station. The staff had all gone through the new training program. Even the menu had changed to include a free kids meal with any adult purchase. Reporters filled the cafe, cameras everywhere. Lisa stood next to Daniel behind a small podium, holding Sophie in her arms. Her baby was wearing the same yellow dress she'd worn to their first meeting in the park. Daniel spoke first, explaining what had happened, taking full responsibility for the company's failure, and outlining every change they'd implemented. Then he turned to Lisa. But the real reason we're here today isn't just to apologize or announce new policies. It's to introduce someone who's changing our company from the inside out. Lisa Henderson is our family services coordinator, and she's the one who designed everything you see here. Lisa, would you like to say a few words? Lisa's mouth went dry. Public speaking had never been her strength. But she looked down at Sophie, then out at all the cameras, and thought about every other mother who'd ever felt ashamed or humiliated for doing something completely natural. 3 weeks ago, I was kicked out of this cafe for feeding my daughter, Lisa began, her voice shaky but growing stronger. I felt like the worst person in the world. I felt like I'd done something wrong, even though I knew I hadn't. That feeling of shame stayed with me for days. She paused, gathering her courage. But something good came from that awful experience. It started a conversation. It made people realize that we need to do better as a society, and it gave me an opportunity to make sure what happened to me doesn't happen to other parents. Lisa gestured around the renovated space. This isn't just about breastfeeding rights, though that's important. This is about treating all parents with respect. Single parents, working parents, young parents, struggling parents. All of us deserve spaces where we feel welcome, not judged. The reporter started asking questions and Lisa answered them honestly. She talked about being a single mother, about struggling to find work, about the challenges of trying to provide for Sophie while feeling like the world was constantly judging her choices. One reporter asked, "Do you think this will actually change anything? Or is it just good publicity for the company?" Lisa looked at Daniel, who nodded at her to answer however she wanted. "I think it's both," she said honestly. "Yes, it's good for the company's image, but it's also genuinely good for families. And you know what? I'm okay with that. Sometimes doing the right thing and doing good business can be the same thing." After the press conference, something unexpected happened. Other businesses started calling. A restaurant chain wanted to know about their training program. A retail store asked about their nursing lounge design. A movie theater wanted advice on making their spaces more family-friendly. Lisa found herself becoming not just an employee, but an advocate for a larger movement. She started a blog sharing tips for businesses that wanted to be more inclusive. She spoke at conferences about parent-friendly workplace policies. She even testified at the state legislature in favor of stronger breastfeeding protection laws. The Lisa Henderson Scholarship Fund launched with $100,000 in seed money from Horizon Hospitality Group. Within months, donations from the public brought it to over $500,000. They helped 47 single parents in the first year alone, covering childcare costs, professional training, and even rent assistance in some cases. But Lisa's proudest moment came 3 months into her new job. She was visiting a Bean and Blossom location across town when she saw a young mother come in with her newborn. The mother looked exhausted and nervous, just like Lisa had been. She ordered a tea and sat in the family area. When her baby started crying, the mother began to nurse, glancing around anxiously as if expecting someone to confront her. Instead, the server walked over with a warm smile and said, "Can I get you anything else? We have some fresh muffins if you're hungry. And just so you know, you're always welcome here." The relief on that mother's face was everything. Lisa didn't introduce herself. She just watched quietly from across the cafe as the mother relaxed, fed her baby in peace, and actually smiled. That's when Lisa knew that all of this, the humiliation, the viral video, the scary changes, had been worth it. Real change was happening, one cafe, one employee, one mother at a time. And it had all started because she'd refused to accept that feeding her baby was something to be ashamed of. Sophie would grow up in a different world than the one Lisa had navigated as a new mother. Maybe not a perfect world, but a better one. And Lisa had helped make that happen. 1 year later, Lisa sat in her car outside the Bean and Blossom Cafe where everything had started. Sophie was in her car seat in the back, now 13 months old and babbling happily to her stuffed bunny. Lisa had driven past this location dozens of times since that awful day, but she'd never actually gone back inside. Not until today, she'd made this appointment with herself. A year ago today, she'd been kicked out of this cafe, humiliated and hopeless. Today, she wanted to come back, not as a victim, but as someone who'd turned her pain into purpose. "You ready, sweet girl?" Lisa asked Sophie as she unbuckled the car seat. Sophie responded with an enthusiastic "Mama," and reached for Lisa's face. Walking through that door felt surreal. The bell above still chimed the same way. But everything else was different. The layout had been completely redesigned. Where there used to be cramped tables and harsh lighting, there was now an open, welcoming space with comfortable seating areas. To the left, Lisa could see the family zone she'd helped design with its soft couches, warm lighting, and a small play area with board books and quiet toys. The staff had changed too. Lisa recognized the young server from a year ago, the one who'd been forced to ask her to leave. His name was Tyler, and he'd been through the new training program. He'd even written Lisa a personal apology letter months ago, explaining how much he regretted that day and how the training had opened his eyes to his own biases. Tyler was at the register when Lisa walked in. His eyes widened with recognition, and for a moment he looked terrified. But Lisa smiled at him, a genuine smile, and his shoulders relaxed. "Hi, Tyler," she said warmly. "I'd like a medium latte, please. And do you have any of those banana muffins?" "Yes, absolutely." "And, Lisa?" Tyler's voice was hesitant. "I just want to say again how sorry I am about what happened. I think about it all the time. You deserved so much better." "I know you are," Lisa said kindly, "and I appreciate that you've worked hard to learn and grow from it. That's all any of us can do." Tyler's eyes got a bit watery. "Your training program changed how I see a lot of things. Not just about parents and babies, but about treating everyone with dignity. I'm actually going back to school now to study social work. I want to help people." Lisa felt her heart swell. This was the ripple effect she'd hoped for. Changing policies was important, but changing hearts was everything. She paid for her coffee and muffin, then walked to the corner table. The same corner where she'd sat that day. But now, instead of hard chairs, there was a cushioned bench with pillows. Soft instrumental music played at a reasonable volume. The temperature was comfortable. And right next to the family area was the nursing lounge with its frosted glass door and a sign that read, "Private Nursing Room. All parents welcome. Always." Lisa sat down with Sophie on her lap and looked around. 3 other families were in the cafe. A dad was giving his toddler a bottle near the window. A mother with twins was sitting in the family zone, looking exhausted but not stressed. And an older woman was having coffee with what looked like her grandson, who was coloring quietly at the table. Everyone looked comfortable. Like they belonged. Like this was a space designed for them. Sophie started getting fussy, and Lisa knew what she needed. Without any hesitation or anxiety, Lisa began nursing her daughter right there at the table. She didn't use a cover this time. She didn't hide in the corner. She just fed her baby naturally, the way mothers had been doing since the beginning of time. Not a single person stared. Not one person looked uncomfortable. The dad with the toddler caught her eye and gave her a friendly nod, one parent to another. That simple gesture of solidarity meant more than he could ever know. Lisa's phone buzzed with a text from Daniel. "How's the anniversary visit going? You doing okay?" She typed back with one hand while Sophie nursed. "More than okay. I'm actually happy." "Is that weird?" "Not weird at all. You've earned every bit of happiness. See you at the office Monday. We have 12 new locations to plan." The work was never ending, but Lisa loved it. Over the past year, she'd helped renovate 47 Bean and Blossom locations. The company's customer satisfaction scores had increased by 32%. More importantly, they'd received hundreds of letters from parents thanking them for creating welcoming spaces. The scholarship fund had grown beyond anything Lisa had imagined. They'd helped 93 families so far. Single mothers who'd gone back to school, fathers who'd gotten job training, parents who'd been able to afford childcare so they could work. Each story reminded Lisa of where she'd been just a year ago. But the impact had spread far beyond just Bean and Blossom. 6 other restaurant chains had adopted similar policies. 12 retail stores had installed nursing lounges. 3 major corporations had revised their parental leave policies after hearing Lisa speak at a business conference. The ripple effect was real and growing. Lisa had been interviewed by magazines, appeared on morning talk shows, and spoken at conferences across the country. People called her an activist, an advocate, a changemaker, but she still thought of herself as just a mom who'd had a really bad day that turned into something meaningful. As Sophie finished nursing and fell asleep in Lisa's arms, a young woman approached their table hesitantly. She looked to be about 19 or 20, with a baby carrier strapped to her chest and tears in her eyes. "I'm so sorry to bother you," the woman said quietly. But are you Lisa Henderson? From the video? Lisa nodded, adjusting Sophie carefully so she wouldn't wake up. I just wanted to thank you, the young woman continued, her voice cracking. I'm a new mom. My baby's 6 weeks old, and I was so scared to go anywhere because I didn't know where I'd be able to feed him. But then I saw your story and I saw what you did and it gave me courage. I've been coming to this cafe 3 times a week. It's the only place I feel completely comfortable. Lisa stood up and with one arm still holding Sophie, gave the young woman a gentle side hug. What's your name?
Christina.
And this is my son, Ben. Christina, you don't ever have to thank me. You have every right to feed your baby anywhere you need to. That's not something I gave you. That's something you've always had. I just helped make sure more people understood that. Christina wiped her eyes. Can I tell you something? My mom, she's older, and she didn't understand why I was so nervous about nursing in public. She said in her generation it was just normal. Nobody made a big deal about it. But somewhere along the way we made it weird and shameful. You're helping make it normal again. After Christina left, Lisa thought about what she'd said. It was true. They weren't inventing something new. They were recovering something that had been lost. The simple understanding that feeding a baby is natural, necessary, and nothing to be ashamed of. Lisa stayed at the cafe for 2 more hours. She watched families come and go. She saw staff members being genuinely helpful and kind. She overheard a server telling a nervous-looking father about the changing station in the men's room. She saw Tyler going out of his way to help an elderly customer carry her tray to a table. This was what change looked like. Not perfect, but better. Not complete, but progressing. Not just corporate policy, but human kindness. As Lisa packed up to leave, she took one last look around the cafe. A year ago, this place had represented her lowest moment. Today, it represented hope, resilience, and the power of turning pain into purpose. She walked past Tyler on her way out. Thank you for the coffee, she said. And thank you for being willing to learn and change. That takes real courage. No, thank you, Tyler replied, for giving people like me a chance to do better. Outside, the afternoon sun was warm on Lisa's face. She buckled Sophie into her car seat and sat in the driver's seat for a moment, just breathing. Her phone buzzed again, this time with an email notification. Another business wanted to consult with her about creating family-friendly policies. Another opportunity to spread the change further. But right now, in this moment, Lisa just wanted to appreciate how far she'd come. From hopeless to hopeful, from victim to advocate, from struggling to surviving to actually thriving. Sophie woke up and made her happy babbling sounds. Lisa turned around and smiled at her daughter. You know what, sweet girl? We're going to be okay. Better than okay. We're going to be amazing. As she drove home, Lisa thought about all the mothers who'd come before her, the ones who'd fought for the right to feed their babies without shame. She thought about her own mother, who'd raised her with such strength. And she thought about all the mothers who'd come after her, the ones who'd benefit from the changes she'd helped create. Change didn't happen because of one viral video, or one CEO's decision, or one person's advocacy. It happened because lots of people, in lots of small ways, decided to do better, to be kinder, to stand up for what was right even when it was uncomfortable. Lisa hadn't set out to become an activist or a public figure. She'd just been a tired mother trying to feed her baby. But sometimes the most ordinary moments become extraordinary catalysts for change. Sometimes your worst day becomes the beginning of your best chapter, and sometimes the thing that breaks you is exactly what helps you build something better. That evening, Lisa sat in her comfortable apartment with Sophie asleep in the nursery. She opened her laptop and began writing in her journal, something she'd started doing during this wild year. Dear Sophie, she wrote, one day when you're old enough, I'll tell you about the day that changed our lives. Not because I want you to know we struggled, but because I want you to know we survived. And more than that, we helped make the world a little bit better for other families like ours. You were just 3 months old, but you were there for all of it. My tiny, powerful catalyst for change. I love you more than words can say. Love, Mom. Lisa closed her laptop and smiled. Tomorrow she'd get back to work. There were more cafes to renovate, more staff to train, more families to help through the scholarship fund. The work was never done, and she was okay with that. Because some things were worth fighting for. Dignity, respect, the simple right to care for your child without shame. And if her story could help even one more mother feel less alone, less afraid, less ashamed, then every moment of pain had been worth it. Outside her window, the city lights twinkled in the darkness. Somewhere out there, another mother was feeding her baby, and maybe, just maybe, she was doing it without fear, in a space that welcomed her, surrounded by people who understood that love and care should never be hidden or ashamed. That was the world Lisa was fighting for. And slowly, beautifully, impossibly, it was becoming real.